What's up everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to show you guys one of the craziest games of the entire year. I was just minding my own business, playing on the ladder, trying to beat Grandmasters by building as many Thors as possible. As you do, right? Trying to go for that 198 supply of Thors, just as I did with the battle cruisers. And then I ran into Boanan, a 5.7k Grandmaster Protoss, who is known to only cannon rush. But he's not just a regular ladder cannon rusher, he is a freaking cannon rush expert. And to be honest, I think cannon rushes are not that hard to defend. Sorry to anyone out there that really struggles with cannon rushes, but for me, it usually doesn't feel that hard to defend, so I decided to have a little bit of fun. I decided to go for a CC first, but hide the base right away, to kind of see if this would be a strong counter to the cannon rush, right? Because most of the time you can defend cannon rushes just by using your SCVs well. And I was wondering if he would get the cannon rush up, seeing that my barracks was really late, if then the hidden base would save me out of it. So what I'm trying to do here is micro my SCVs, put them in all the possible cannon spots. Now, the thing is, he can actually finish that gateway, because normally you have a barracks making marines. I'm not going to have a barracks, so these gateways could actually be absolutely vicious. Now I'm going to have to be really careful here, because as soon as he walls in one cannon, we are pretty much going to be screwed, because I do indeed not have any marines. Now he did cancel the pylon on the low ground, but that is actually a bit of a bait. Just gonna warn you guys in advance, if they cancel the pylon on the low ground, do not move that SCV, because they could still make a cannon on the low ground with the next probe. Exactly. That probe would have been able to make a cannon. Here I decided to go for a bit of a quick wall. And this is when I start getting really crazy. So here, the situation actually looks perfectly fine for me, but for some reason I just felt like trying to wall him in completely. And I don't really know what told me to do this. I really felt like I was playing AoE 2 with my quick walls kind of thing, you know? Now this is what I noticed on the left side, that my bunker was actually dying faster than it was building, and that is a pretty big problem. Here I tried the quick wall again, but this time it sadly didn't work. Now there's also a cannon going up on the low ground right now. That Zealot did get successfully walled in, so that's really nice. I did lose a marine, but we are going to kill the Zealot relatively easily. I was actually planning on leaving that battery, or sorry, the engineering bay on 99% so I could cancel it later, but I didn't actually end up canceling it. So now I have a finished eBay that hopefully I can use later on at some point. I'm not quite sure if I will. I'm trying to micro my SCVs to kill that Zealot as efficiently as possible. Keep in mind, I do have a hidden base out there on the map somewhere, but it is not an orbital command, so it's not actually that useful yet. I'm really trying to avoid my marines from dying and get a pretty good surround there on that Zealot, or at least it looked like a surround. That Zealot is now gonna fall. I still have a couple of low HP SCVs that I don't want to have die to that Zealot. I also don't want to lose the marine, so I'm running it away. And even though the cannon rush looks like it's somewhat cleared up, I see a chrono boost on the gateway there, which indeed probably means that a stalker is going to be finishing, and I don't have a counter to stalkers right now. And now my base looks like this, right? There were 4 depots. I saw an engineering bay as well. 4 depots, an engineering bay, a barracks, and a bunker, surrounding 2 pylons and 2 gateways with 2 stalkers. Now you can tell that my marines are dying to these stalkers pretty fast. And this is problematic, guys, because I'm not going to be able to deal with these stalkers very easily at all. Now I decided to send my SCVs out on a mission to at least get this stalker away from my buildings and not walk into my main base. Now I'm going to walk into my hidden expansion, which is pretty risky, but I kind of thought he would just stop chasing me at some point, right? Because why would you follow SCVs to the edge of the map? Doesn't really make that much sense. But it does look, judging from the minimap, that he is still chasing them. I'm gonna go for another bunker. I ran my SCVs away here because I thought if he's chasing me, at least I won't lead him to my command center. So, but I didn't see him chase anymore, so I just put them back on the minerals. Now that stalker is almost dead, but all my marines are 1 HP. And now on the minimap, I see that disaster struck, and he did actually find my base to be, or in the end. Now that stalker almost got surrounded, but he does manage to escape, which means he's gonna kill my stuff instantly. And now it seems like the cannon rush / double gateway rush thing is finally kind of over. But he did find my hidden expansion, so that is sadly not going to work anymore. And we're already 5 minutes into the game. Normally by this point in the game, you guys know me, you guys will see me play before. I would already have like a battle cruiser in someone's base or a Thor or something like that. But now I don't even have gas. I have 2 bases. I was really not happy to see how advanced my opponent's Nexus was, which is that it's already finished. Now, I saw a red HP probe there, and I was on a mission. We actually do get it, but sadly I misclicked a little bit, so I wasn't able to save that SCV. But now here we are. We both have 2 bases. I definitely have way less workers than my opponent, and I also don't have anything that can deal with the stalkers. But we are where we are. Now, I do want to say, guys, do not try this cannon rush hold at home, okay? I know I said I think holding cannon rush is pretty easy. It is not easy defending it by doing this, okay? That is not what I meant, just to be clear here. I think most of you got that, but just in case you're like, oh, okay, so he said cannon rushing is easy, and he goes for the quick walls, and then another quick wall, and then another quick wall, and then the micros, SCVs in 3 different... No. Please, okay? Take it easy. Just don't. Just don't build hidden bases. Don't try the quick walls. Just be normal and attack the buildings with your SUVs and make a bunker or something, okay? It's gonna be alright. Now, I had a pretty sick plan here, guys. I have a 3-rack setup. Just to add a little bit of extra context here, before this, I played against Boanan as well. And that game, I ended up killing him with a big marine timing attack. But this game, I was actually pretty set on playing mech. So you guys might be confused. Well, why the hell are you building 3 barracks then? And an engineering bay. Well, the engineering bay, you know. The extra barracks you might not realize. I kinda wanted to play a little bit of a fake on him. Now, I see an observer over here. Sadly, I don't have a scan. If you're wondering why I'm moving my marines like this, is because they're chasing an invisible observer. But I wanted to fake him that I was playing bio and then transition to mech later on. I think it is not just a crazy idea. It is also a pretty good idea. So, in general, the bio into mech transition, or the other way around, I think has been a little undervalued. In particular, I liked it in TVZ, where you could pretend to play mech. Your opponent goes for roaches in response, typically, right? That's what you do against mech. And then you just make mass tanks after with bio. So you'll have bio tanking as mass roach, obviously a fantastic composition. Against Protoss, you can also kind of do this. If you play bio, Protoss players will almost always make Colossus. Storm, I personally think Storm is really great. Most Protoss players do prefer to go for Colossus still. Colossus is one of the rare Protoss units, and I really mean rare, because Protoss is amazing against mech, by the way. So once again, maybe don't try this at home, just enjoy when I do it, but it's very dangerous because mech is not good against Protoss. But the Colossus is one of the units that mech is actually good against. Colossus is really good against bio, really good against Hellions, but not good against tanks, terrible against Thors actually. So this can be a good idea. I used this to some success in my pro career, though that was definitely a little different. I remember doing it against Neeb, one of the best non-Korean Protoss, actually the best non-Korean Protoss player of all time. I played against him on Neon Violet Square. I know I'm rambling a bit because it's a distant memory, but the mech is gonna, have to get set up anyway. It was a very big map. And I always hated playing the late game against Protoss with bio. So what I would do is I would play a completely normal bio game with tanks, right? Usually you add a couple Widow Mines or tanks with your bio. I would play it with tanks. And then the moment I noticed that the army became too big, there was too much splash damage, I would add like 5 factories and just go for mech with double armory. At that point, you're already on like 4 bases. You can get a really big mech army out. And even though, I'm not sure exactly what it was, even though mech shouldn't be that good against Protoss, in the late game I felt more comfortable. Like playing late game bio against Protoss. If you guys have tried it, you've probably, have been there before where you try it, and even though you try your EMPs and your Viking micro, it's always like 1 disruptor ball hits or 2 storms hit too hard, or the Colossus catch you a little bit off guard and you just evaporate, right? And with mech, I feel like that part is just not as much of an issue, so I always kind of preferred that. So this strategy has helped me a little bit in the past. Not as extreme as this, though. Going for 2, especially after that cannon rush opener, right, where I kind of got owned a little bit. Going for 2 base 3 racks in a 2 base triple factory is very ridiculous. Now, what I'm doing on the mini-map here, if you notice, I have 3 barracks flying all over the place. This is kind of announcing to him that I'm playing mech, but I've kind of assumed with the amount of observers that he had, he would have noticed by now. And judging by his army, he did build 3 Colossus, which is exactly what I want, right? Very, very happy with this. And flying the barracks across is actually an idea that I learned from Kelazur, another pro Terran player, or at least ex-pro Terran player. And I copied one idea from him that I thought was always really cool. At some point against Zerg, what was really popular was playing 3 Racks Reaper. You guys might remember this era. And Kellezer was one of the only ones that liked to play mech after it. And what I thought was so cool about this against Zerg is that Zerg doesn't tend to have a lot of anti-air at all. Look at these blue flame Hellions destroy. This is so sad. I freaking love Hellions, by the way, just so you guys know. I'm gonna kill 1,000,000 workers this game, but just a spoiler, if you guys like workers getting absolutely toasted, roasted barbecues, this is also going to be the game for you. But one idea that I really liked from him is because Zergs don't have a lot of anti-air, you can fly your 3 barracks across the map, and you can basically just have vision everywhere on every run-by path while you're playing mech. Mech is a very immobile composition, so you don't want to move out that much. Now here I got a little scared. I kind of thought I was doing okay. Obviously I realized that the start was pretty tough, right? And we were probably going to be behind. His army looked pretty gargantuan. I have 5 Thors, and I think he already had like freaking 30 Zealots or something, at least with the next warp in he would. Now this is when we're gonna, you know, have to camp very hard behind a couple buildings. I'm making turrets here. If you guys are wondering why I'm making turrets, it's because turrets are actually really good against Colossus. Turrets can shoot at Colossus because they're tall, so it's really hard for them to move through it. Now here you can see how good Thors are against Colossus, right? That was one Colossus already gone. The reason why Thors are so good is because they use the anti-air attack against Colossus, giving them... I don't know exactly how much range a Thor has against air. It's basically 1,000,000, like it shoots from very, very far, so it's really good against Colossus. Now here we're gonna get another couple pros. Blue Flame Hellions, super good against pros with that 2-shot. And we managed to survive the attack as well. Now at this point, I wouldn't say we completely equalized the game, but I thought we were getting closer because we killed the Colossus. We killed a lot of probes. I think first of all in the 3rd base, then in the natural, and then in the 3rd base again, right? I believe that's how many workers we killed. I have 5 factories already. I'm not quite sure if I'm up at double armory already, but that would be nice. Thors do benefit a lot from armor upgrades, by the way. Thors, they are surprisingly fragile. Not like they're extremely fragile, but if you think of the Thor as like one of the big tanky units, if you put it in the same category as like a battlecruiser, for example, then the Thor is going to disappoint a little bit in terms of tankiness. It's 6 supply, but it's only 400 health, doesn't actually have as much armor as you would think, so it dies pretty fast, especially to stuff like Zealots, even faster to stuff like Immortals and Disruptors, of course. So you do need a lot of Thors, ideally with a lot of armor upgrades, do you want to, you know, be successful in the macro game at least. Now, like I mentioned in the start, my intention in this game was actually to make 198 supply of Thors. Like, I really didn't expect to get there from a cannon rush game, but that is exactly what I was going for. I'm gonna slowly trade out the Hellions, kill as many probes as possible so my opponent never feels comfortable in a big economy that he's able to attack me or even transition into like mass disruptors or something. And then I'll slowly start giving away my SCVs as well, and then I end up having 33 Thors, 198 supply, and I was really, really curious how well it would do. Now here we're gonna toast some more probes. Notice how even though there's a cannons and stalkers, I still kill like half the probes in his mineral line. Now that was not the best target fire, probably could have killed a couple more, but still pretty happy with it. Now, even at this point, I don't even have that many Thors yet, and I obviously mean that in the context of trying to go for 198 supply of Thors, because if you look at this from a normal game context, like pretending this is a normal game of StarCraft 2, I have an insane amount of Thors. This is probably as many Thors as you'll ever see. How many Thors do I have? Like 15 or something absolutely ridiculous. 90 supply in pure Thors. That is in combination with, what is that, about 70 SCVs, I would say, and probably the rest either in production or in Hellions. Now, I was making the walls because it really looked like he was about to attack me. I saw an Archon and a couple Zealots on the right side, a couple units on the left, and it really seemed like he was getting ready for an attack, but then something gave away that he didn't. I probably scanned his army and saw that it was pretty small, decided to go for it. In the end, those buildings only really ended up blocking my own Thor. So those were not the best building blocks ever, but you have to be really careful when you play mech, okay? You will get A-moved by Zealots, just saying. Now, at this point, I am maxed. I am also getting a decent bank. When I was doing the 198 supply of Battlecruiser challenge, I felt like I was maybe playing a little too safe. Or not too safe, I would say too uneconomic. So I was giving my workers away quite fast, and I ended up taking a very long time actually affording my Thors all the way up to 198 supply. So this game I wanted to play slightly more economic, make a couple more command centers before I really started giving the SCVs away. At least before I give all of them away. I'll probably start chewing them out, you know, little by little. I mean, I can give away 12 SCVs. I could also kill them myself, but I feel like you might as well give them away to the enemy's army, get a little bit of scouting anyway. It's not like when these guys play against me and they see that I have 20 Thors and I'm still sitting there and not attack against, you know, they're going to realize what I'm doing, guys. Like, they'll know, trust me. Now, it looks like he's going to get ready for an attack here. He does have a big army with Immortals, but here you guys are going to see the power of the Thor. I know the Thor. You would think that Immortals counter them super hard, but Thors are actually pretty freaking strong, guys. There you go. I would say that a Thor against an Immortal, this is a very important distinction in battles, okay? If you're going to try this yourself, or if you're ever trying to judge accurately how a fight with Thors is going to go, Thors are really good if they get to directly shoot the counter. You guys might have wondered ever why you don't see that many Thors in pro play, because whenever you go in the unit tester, you put them directly against carriers, for example, they look really strong. You put them directly against Immortals, they're not going to look that strong, but they're going to look okay. They're not going to look like Immortals counter them that hard. And you're going to do it with every unit, find out Thor is pretty good. But what happens is, if you have 10 Thors, and they will have, let's say, 6 Immortals, right? Normally Thors would absolutely crush probably even 8 Immortals, right? But what happens, they will have 6 Immortals, and they'll also have like 12 Zealots, meaning that your Thors are gonna take an inhuman amount of, like, really a crazy amount of damage from those Immortals and not being able to shoot them. And that is when your Thors get absolutely annihilated. So you're always gonna want to make sure that if you fight against Zealots, you have some Hellbats at the front. In my case, my counter is not to make Hellbats. Really, my counter is just to make so many Thors that I have way more army supply than him. Now here we're gonna kill, I think we killed a couple Archons and those Immortals, which is really nice. Now I have to be careful. The biggest problem with Thors is that you can't really micro them very well. Like there, I was just in time, but it's really hard to actually pull Thors back. You also can't really chase stuff. Now, like I said, I do want to keep playing a little economic here, so I was going up to 5 bases. Sadly, I lost one. Basically got one shot by that Immortal army. And now I am flying over my main base, which is conveniently mined out at the same time. I'm not quite sure if you guys realized what mistake I made, by the way, but I lost all of my barracks by flying them across, so I couldn't make orbital commands. I knew that I wouldn't ever need more factories, because 5 factories was going to be more than enough to max out on Thors. But I didn't know, or I didn't realize that I was also going to need orbital commands, which you need a barracks for. Now, this is exactly the kind of moment where it gets scary. I noticed that I was killing a lot of units on each side, and I was slowly taking hits to my economy, and I didn't really want to. So I decided to go for a counterattack and kill some bases. So I killed this base at the top, which is nice. But this, once again, is exactly the situation where it's scary. And here you're going to see it. This army doesn't look that big, but those Zealots that you saw there are going to tank for the Immortals, meaning that the Immortals shoot at my Thors for free. I kind of stopped looking at the fight because I already knew that I was going to lose that fight. And once again, you can't really micro the Thors that well. And indeed, my opponent's army absolutely crushes mine with 5 Immortals left alive, and that is the kind of thing that I was talking about. If there are Zealots to counter for, or tank for those Immortals, then you're going to be in a big amount of trouble. Now here there weren't that many units, and I wasn't in any kind of rush or time. It's so funny to see the difference there. You guys have seen me beat Immortals straight up. You guys have seen me absolutely annihilate Zealots straight up like I did there. But if the Zealots or Immortals are together, like they were in the top right, then all of a sudden they absolutely crush my army. Now here I'm going to retreat with my Thors. I think he should be able to catch me. I mean, it is about 10 Thors that I have, and he doesn't know how many Hellbats I have, so he's not gonna do it, but he might have been able to catch me there. Now I'm gonna also let you guys in on one big mistake that Protoss players tend to make a lot against this composition, which is that they tend to make a lot of Archons. If you guys maybe remember, I used to have a composition that really only I would play, which has been Thor Banshee, right? And I actually beat a lot of good pro players with that too. Pretty much the main reason that Thor Banshee ever worked is because it wasn't a composition that was known before. So Protoss players, whenever they saw Thor Banshee, they would treat it as mech, right? They wouldn't treat it as Thor Banshee specifically. They would counter it as if it was mech. One of the absolute best units you can ever make against tank Hellbat is just Archons. Archons do not take bonus damage from either Hellbats or tanks. Actually, it might be the only unit that doesn't do that. I think everything else takes bonus damage besides the Archons. So Archons are really insanely good at breaking siege tank lines as well as dealing with Hellbats. So when they see you're playing mech, they will make a lot of Archons. The Archon is the second unit after the Colossus that is not that good against Thors. Colossus is not good against mech in general, so that's their, weakest unit pretty much. But Archons specifically are not good against Thors, and you guys might have noticed that he has been making a lot of Archons. I know they're good against Hellbats, and that's the only reason why you would say that it's okay to make them, but Archons are 300 gas, and they really suck against Thors. Like, they're terrible, right? So the fact that he has been making Archons means that he has been falling for the Thor Banshee trap, where he's just treating it like it's mech. Now here, I was a little bit surprised, I'll be honest. After doing that amount of damage, keeping all of my Thors alive, getting back up to max supply, I was pretty sure that we were in a fantastic position. Then I saw that his army was still pretty massive. He still had probes at all of his bases. Well, I mean, not anymore at the third base and the natural, because I own those with some Hellbat. But he also had DTs. And this is when I realized that this game was still very much on the cards. And I have to admit, when I lost my Thors attacking the top right side, I kind of gave up on the hopes of getting to 198 supply of Thors, because I lost so many Thors, and I thought my economy is not good enough to build it, and this game is going to end sooner or later. But the more I was playing this game, especially at this point, I felt like the game was way more still in the balance than I thought. Like, neither I am dead or my opponent is dead. Now, he is losing an incredible amount of probes. I do want to challenge you guys, by the way. I wonder if you guys can guess how many probes or how many workers in general are going to be killed by the end of the game. I know I'm going to show it. It's a lot, okay? I wonder if you guys are going to be able to guess it. It will be funny to see if you guys get close, because I think it is possible to get it too high, too low. It is really not that easy of a guess. Now, I think there was a DT here, so I'm going to scan. I guess he walked away perfectly in time, which is very annoying for me. I suppose that one Thor with a turret should be good against, I don't know, maybe 3 DTs? I think with 2 DTs it should win for sure. 3 DTs I think might actually beat the Thor. DTs are also pretty good against Thors, by the way, because Thors, once again, they are more fragile than you think. DTs have an insane amount of burst damage, one of the highest DPS in the entire game, I believe. So if 10 DTs blink on top of your Thors, if you don't scan immediately, you might actually be in a bit of trouble. Now, there we saw the one advantage that Thors have against Disruptors. Thors are absolutely terrible against Disruptors normally, but there I noticed one little advantage that the Thors had, and that is that they're so big that sometimes Disruptors don't hit that many. I think that Disruptor shot looked like it was going to be very painful, but it only hit one Thor in the end, which is very nice. Now here I'm just going to keep going with the Hellions. This is going to be a very funny dance. I remember this part. Look, Archons, I guess they're pretty good at countering the Hellions, because Hellions can't kill them, but you can't play Ring Around the Rosie with the Archon and just kind of drive around and hit the edges of the mineral line. Here we're going to kill another 6 probes just with these 2 Hellions. I did see that his Roas were still producing, which means he's definitely not out of money yet. It's easy to think, okay, we've killed so many workers. This guy absolutely has 0 income left, but he's still producing from his robos. He was still warping in there as well, so he definitely still has a bit of money. I do know from playing Protoss myself that that is one of the strong advantages of Protoss, is that losing workers in the late game when you have a lot of Nexi doesn't feel that bad. I know that if you're playing like a perfect meta game and the game is completely even and you lose 20 probes, it's always going to feel tough. But with Protoss, especially compared to Terran, I know Zerg also can replenish the workers very fast, but with Protoss, Chrono boosting 5 Nexus, I think you get 20 probes out in like 25 seconds or something absolutely ridiculous. I don't know exactly how much the Chrono boosts right now, because they changed it so much. But I think 25, 30 seconds or so, you're going to have 20 probes back from 5 Nexus. So even though I've been killing a lot, he's also been rebuilding them very fast, I'm sure. Now, I started giving away a couple workers. At this point, I couldn't quite see how much army supply I had, but I think it's probably about 150 or 160 or so already, which is insane. I don't have that many Hellions. Now, this is where my composition gets really funny, because I have so many Thors that I can split my Thors, right? I know I kind of did it before with the attack. At that point, I mostly did it because I killed a lot of units, not because I had that many Thors. But now, my opponent has a really big army on the right side, but I can still split off 10 Thors to the left side because I just have that many Thors. And this is where this kind of style actually has a pretty decent advantage compared to playing normal mech, because opponents are just not used to someone possibly having that many units. It's a big advantage of like pretty much all the challenges that I do. It's not necessarily that the compositions are really strong or something like that. The mind games do work very well, but it's just that players tend to not be as good at all. I notice this in chess too, by the way. It's quite funny. Players are not as good at all if they have to really think outside of the box. If you do something weird, like in this case where I have half the SCVs of normal and like 6 additional Thors or something ridiculous, they all of a sudden don't really know what to do anymore. Like notice how he's still trying to split his army, but I have a huge army on 2 sides. My small army on the left side is 9 Thors. That is almost 60 supply of Thors, and he realizes that I just have way too much stuff and he has to tap out. And after 25 minutes of making mass Thors, we have won the game. We ended this game with 27 Thors, which is a ridiculous amount of supply. My brain is absolutely fried right now, so I don't know exactly how much. But we killed 171 workers. I wonder if anyone got that right, and this was my challenge with the Thors. I didn't quite get up to 198 supply, but I think it was probably about 160 or so, and that was an absolutely beautiful game. And that's going to be it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this absolutely crazy game. Started with the freaking cannon rush, by the way. If you did, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all for the next one. Adios.